Throughout history, the greatest empires have not been destroyed by enemies at their borders, violent revolutions, or even catastrophic wars. Their downfall usually begins with something far quieter: the slow decay of their own currency. Rome, Spain, Britain, and now the United States. 4 eras, 4 superpowers, 1 repeating pattern. This is the story of how empires crumble from the inside out, and why the warning signs flashing in today's world look eerily familiar. Let's begin where the pattern first became unmistakable: ancient Rome. For centuries, Rome ruled vast territories stretching across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. More than 60 million people lived under Roman law. Its armies were unmatched, its infrastructure decades ahead of its time, and its currency, the silver denarius, was trusted across 3 continents. When it was introduced in the 3rd century BC, the denarius was a simple silver coin, but it carried extraordinary power. Its value wasn't based on promises. It was based on metal, real, measurable, universally respected silver. Soldiers were paid with it. Merchants traded with it. Farmers saved it. Its reliability held the empire together. But maintaining an empire is expensive. Every new frontier demanded more troops, more roads, more food, more administration. Eventually, even Rome could no longer pay for its ambitions honestly, so it took the shortcut every empire eventually takes. Not higher taxes, not reduced spending, but changing the money itself. The first meaningful break in trust came under Emperor Nero. He wanted grander monuments, more military campaigns, and a lifestyle beyond the limits of the treasury. Instead of admitting the empire was stretched thin, he reduced the silver content inside the denarius. The coin looked identical on the outside, same size, same emperor, same name. But the reality had shifted. Each coin contained slightly less silver. Rome could now mint more money without actually creating more wealth. Once this door opened, it never closed again. Emperor after emperor diluted the currency further until the silver coin that once powered a world empire became little more than a token coated in a thin layer of metal. The pattern had begun. Centuries later, Spain became the next global giant to repeat it. In the 1500s, the discovery of the New World delivered unimaginable treasure. Conquistadors conquered entire civilizations, and one mountain in the Andes, Potosi, was so rich in silver that people said it could fund an empire forever. For decades, Spain flooded Europe with silver coins. The Spanish dollar became the first truly global currency, accepted all the way from China to the Americas. But more money does not equal more wealth. As silver poured into European markets, prices began to rise everywhere. Goods cost more. Wages fell behind. The empire looked richer on paper, but poorer in reality. Easy wealth blinded Spain to the consequences, and the currency that made it powerful quietly undermined it. Then came Britain, the mightiest empire the world had ever seen. At its height, Britain ruled a quarter of the planet's land mass and people. And for over 200 years, global trade revolved around the British pound. The strength of the pound came from gold. Anyone could exchange British banknotes for a fixed amount of gold, a promise that made London the financial capital of the world. But everything changed in 1914. World War I forced Britain to spend on a scale it had never imagined. Shipyards, factories, armies, weapons. The costs skyrocketed. The government printed more money and suspended full gold convertibility to survive the war. After the war, Britain tried to pretend nothing had changed. In 1925, it returned to the old gold value, as if the war hadn't crushed the economy. But the pound was now overvalued. Exports fell, industries weakened, unemployment rose. The strain became unbearable. By 1931, Britain finally abandoned the gold standard altogether. It kept the same currency, but the illusion of invincibility was gone. The pattern had claimed another empire. Then the torch passed to the United States. After World War II, America emerged as the only major power with a strong industrial base and massive gold reserves. In 1944, at Bretton Woods, the world agreed that the U.S. dollar would become the new reserve currency. Other nations pegged their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar was pegged to gold. For a while, the system worked beautifully. But just like Rome, Spain, and Britain, America began to stretch itself further than its gold reserves could support. Cold War military spending, overseas bases, Vietnam, and ambitious domestic programs required more dollars than there was gold to back them. Foreign nations noticed, and they demanded gold in exchange for their dollars. Gold drained out of American vaults until 1971, when President Nixon finally severed the link between the dollar and gold. The dollar was no longer backed by metal, only by trust, and trust can fade. Without the restraint of gold, the financial system expanded massively. Debt soared, credit exploded, markets ballooned. Every economic issue was answered the same way: lower interest rates and more easy money. The breaking point came in 2008. After years of reckless lending and cheap credit, the system cracked. Banks collapsed. Markets plunged. The world froze. The solution? Even cheaper money and a new phrase that changed everything: quantitative easing. Central banks created trillions of dollars out of thin air to keep the system alive. The patient survived, but became addicted. In 2020, this addiction spiraled further. Governments printed more money in 1 year than they had in decades. Asset prices soared. Everything from groceries to houses became more expensive. Ordinary people felt poorer, even as financial markets hit record highs. Meanwhile, the rest of the world watched carefully. Nations began trading outside the dollar. Central banks bought historic levels of gold. Dollar reserves worldwide quietly declined. The pattern was advancing toward its next stage. Every great empire follows the same financial life cycle. Stage 1, dominance, a strong currency backed by real value. Stage 2, overreach, expansion, wars, and obligations. Stage 3, deficits, spending more than the system earns. Stage 4, debasement, printing money or lowering its value. Stage 5, inflation, the silent tax on the population. Stage 6, loss of trust, slowly at first, then suddenly. Stage 7, reset, decline, replacement, or collapse. The United States is deep into Stage 5, with the beginnings of Stage 6 appearing on the horizon. We cannot control the fate of empires, but we can control whether we sleep through the warning signs. The first step is awareness. Watch trends: debt, inflation, money supply, de-dollarization. These are signals, not noise. The second step is building what money can't print: skills, relationships, reputation, and real assets. The third step is emotional discipline. Empires fall when people panic, but strategic thinkers stay calm, study the environment, and prepare quietly. In every collapse, a small fraction of people survive, even thrive, because they saw the pattern early and moved before everyone else woke up. History is unforgiving to the blind, but remarkably generous to those who pay attention.